Good afternoon, Saitlanders. How are you? We hope that all is well. All is well with us. Thank God. Thank the Lord that He has looked after us thus far. And may He continue to do so in the dark times that lie ahead of us, that appear to lie ahead of us. Very quickly, what were we going to talk about? I've completely forgotten. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, the story of the three Croats. Kuni Maria said that I must tell you this story, true story that happened to me. It was in 2000 and late 2013 or early 2014. I befriended a woman whom I've never met in person, but we got very pally over the internet and WhatsApp and what have you, who is a fellow prepper or fellow survivalist. And she's on a few of the survivalist and prepper groups, the internet ones, such as survivalist boards, which is probably the best in the world. And she's a South African. She lives in Randburg. She lived not far from me, although, as I say, we never ever met. And she told me a very interesting story. One day she was in Cresta Shopping Centre at the Big Blue shop. I don't know if it still exists, but some of you will remember it as a shop in Cresta Shopping Centre that sold nice T-shirts. And I used to collect T-shirts. And, well, actually, it's got nothing to do with me, but she was in that shop and she was dealing with the lady over the counter, and the lady burst into tears. And my friend thought that the lady behind the counter was perhaps experiencing, health discomfort because it came out of the blue. But in fact, what had happened is that the Caxton newspapers delivery guy had brought the pile of newspapers for the week. I think it's the Northcliffe Melville Times or Melville Northcliffe Times, and planted on the counter next to the woman, the woman serving, the woman ringing up the sale. And she had looked down at the front page of the newspaper, and it was a report on a bomb threat. And it had reminded her of being in the Yugoslav breakup. She is a Croatian from Croatia, or a Croat from Croatia, which is now an independent country, but which was years ago, up until about 1991, depending how you count it, part of the Yugoslav Federation. So she lived in Yugoslavia and then Croatia during the time of the Yugoslav breakup. And that article on the front page of the Northcliffe Melville Times Caxton newspaper that day reminded her of certain things that had occurred during that civil war. And so she burst into tears. Anyway, at the time, I'd had an accident in my car. I didn't have a car, and so I was using a taxi when I needed to go around. And my taxi driver was a Croat, also a Croat. And I spoke to him about those times, and he told me how... I beg your pardon. Let's go back one step. So the lady and my friend were chatting, and she told my friend how what is happening in South Africa reminds her of what happened, the mood, the events, the threats, bomb threats, this, that, the next thing, that happened prior to the Yugoslav breakup, the tension between the different nationalities, the fracturing of the society, the mutual recriminations and insults between the ethnic groups. You get the picture. And how what's happening in South Africa now, or 2013-14, so already then reminded her of the terrible events in Yugoslavia. Okay. So some days later, I called up my taxi man. I had to go somewhere. I worked from home, fortunately, so I didn't have to travel very much, but I had to go to the shops, do whatever. And I asked the taxi man, my Croat friend, about the similarities, as this woman had described. And he said to me, Simon, it's not the same. It's exactly the same. Some weeks after that, I was invited to dinner by a colleague of mine, a woman with whom I'd worked on and off in our industry and who lived quite near to me. A very lovely lady, and she invited me to dinner with her and her husband at their home that Friday night. So the Friday night duly came, and I went to dinner there, and we had a lovely dinner. And the husband is a Croat. The husband also grew up in the former Yugoslavia. The husband also experienced, my friend's husband, also experienced, my colleague's husband, also experienced the Yugoslav breakup of the civil war as a Croat. So this is Croat number 3. And I said to him, his name is Dražko. I said to him, Dražko, what is your opinion on this story that I have to tell you about the Croat lady in the big blue shop and the Croat taxi driver? And he said the same thing. It's not the same, Simon. It's exactly the same. And Kuni Maria said to me that I must tell this story. People must hear this story. I've told it to hundreds of people over years. It made an enormous impression upon me at the time. To have that confirmation out of the same quarter endorsed or asserted 3 times over in quick succession, within the span of a few weeks. I'd say it was maybe 6 weeks at the most, perhaps as few as 3 or 4 weeks. Was a startling experience for me. And it makes you think. It makes me think of, we've spoken about this in some of the forums, the Thursday night things that we do every 3, 4, 5 weeks. We have excuse me, I'm hiccuping on my lunch sandwich. Sorry, after the hiccups, back to the Thursday night live broadcast. We spoke recently about a guy called Željko. It's spelled Seljico, S-E-L-C-O or S-E-L-J-C-O. A very Slavic word. And I believe that it is pronounced Željko. Anyway, there's a guy in the United States of America from Yugoslavia, also a Croat, believe it or not, who lived through the civil war in Yugoslavia and who endured a year-long siege of the city that he was in. It was besieged by enemy forces. They couldn't get out. Help couldn't come in. They had no food. The water was dirty, and so on and so forth. The list goes on. And this guy subsequently moved to the USA and opened shtfschool.com. You can look it up for yourselves. shtfschool.com. Very easy. Which is a website or a company devoted to advising people from the perspective of somebody who's experienced it on civil war, survivalism, prepping for anarchy and terrible circumstances, etc. Exactly as Satanistas do, And as I say, the conversation with these 3 Croats reminds me of these discussions that we've held in our Thursday night broadcasts about this guy Željko and his advice concerning the years. He has a course in which he describes all of this very nicely. The years, months, weeks, days, and I think it goes down to as much as hours or the day before the beginnings of a civil war. It's fascinating. It's fascinating how much of what he has to say concurs with what the advice that we give, which is largely based on research that Mr. Miller and Kuni Maria and others have done over years. And not even just the advice that we give, but concurs with what we are witnessing around us. It's all sorts of stuff. I'll give you one more or less arbitrary anecdote, almost random anecdote, where he talks about how the known brand names of cigarettes disappear from the shelves, and you're obliged to start smoking unknown brands of cigarettes because that's all that is available. It may be mere coincidence or accident, if you prefer, that we've been through that in recent months in South Africa. Nevertheless, these stories are poignant. There's so many of them that echo or which are echoed by what is happening in South Africa now. There's so many of them. And they are poignant. They kind of get inside you. They strike deep. They strike a chord deep inside of you. I think that's about it. I think that's what I wanted to tell you today. I hope that you enjoyed the story or stories. We all here in Van der Kloof at the HQ hope that you are well. We hope that your groups, regions, and provinces are thriving. We hope that you're attracting new members and that you're building yourselves up well. And we hope to see you very soon, whether it be at a conference or down here in Van der Kloof or up in Pretoria or with Oom Bertus on the Wesrand or Oom Frans or on the Oosrand, I beg your pardon. Yeah, it'll be nice to see you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.